Am I in focus? That's the question. I think so. I think I'm ready to start. Okay, I'm nervous. Alright, let's do this. Hi guys, so welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my first YouTube video. I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm also really excited. I just wanted to do a little talking video just so that I can introduce myself and you guys can get to know me. So I'm going to be talking a lot about myself, but also answering questions that you guys have sent in over on my Instagram. I want to start off by just introducing myself. So my name is Grace Ansell. I am 21 years old and I am a personal trainer. I work at the Fit Factory in Cockfosters, which is in North London where I'm from, and I specialise in body transformations using weightlifting specifically. So my interest in fitness kind of started when I was about 12, but I actually started with a very unhealthy relationship with exercise and nutrition. I actually had an eating disorder. I was diagnosed with anorexia nervosa when I was 13, and I struggled with that for a couple of years, but I was also struggling with compulsive exercising. I had developed OCD at the time, obsessive compulsive disorder, and compulsive exercising was my first real symptom of OCD. But eventually I managed to overcome my compulsive exercising, and I actually fixed my relationship with food. And that came through my passion for weightlifting. So my passion for weightlifting started when I was about 14. I started to look up to these fitness influencers and people that were strong and curvy, and I really wanted to get into weightlifting myself. That is when I actually purchased some kettlebells, some dumbbells and resistance bands from the internet, and I started to do at-home workouts. Obviously I was 14, so I was too young to go to the gym, but I was really interested in resistance training, and that is when I started. So I started to follow all these influencers and I did a lot of research online, and I basically just taught myself so much about resistance training until I was eventually old enough to go to a gym, and that's when my passion really started. So I joined a gym when I was 16 and I actually went with a friend. At first I was just kind of getting familiar with the environment, with the equipment, the machines, but as I grew more and more confident I decided I wanted to follow a stricter program, and that is when I started to really see results. And if you know anything about weightlifting, you'll know that obviously nutrition goes alongside it. In order to see results, you need to be eating good food, you need to be fueling yourself properly, and it was through this that I really started to fix my relationship with food, and I started to view food as fuel for my workouts. And honestly, that was a really big turning point for me, because if I didn't change my perception of food, I wouldn't have recovered from my eating disorder. So I honestly owe everything to weightlifting. It completely changed my outlook and really helped me grow into the person that I am today. So it may be quite obvious to you by now that I have struggled with a lot of mental health issues throughout my life. I have suffered from a number of mental illnesses, and it has been really challenging. But that is exactly why I am making this channel, and it is why I use Instagram and TikTok. I would like to use my story and all of the knowledge that I've learned along the way to help other people who are struggling. Mental health conditions are becoming a lot more common, and I just really want to raise awareness and help those that need it. So I want to use my voice in the best way possible and just help those that are suffering just by using my support and sharing my experiences. Even if I help just one person, then I'll be happy. But before I continue waffling away, I am going to get to the questions that I've been asked on my Instagram, starting with why YouTube and why now? So for quite a few months I've been posting a lot on Instagram and TikTok and just trying to raise awareness about mental health and help people with their fitness goals. And honestly, it has been so rewarding, and I just thought that creating a YouTube channel would be a way to reach a larger audience. But it also gives me the opportunity to create slightly different content, like longer videos, more informative videos, and it also gives you a chance to get to know me a little bit better. But in response to why now, I had been putting it off for a little while just because I was a little bit nervous about it. I feel like obviously this is a way for me to show more of my personality, and being someone that suffers from social anxiety, I am scared of being judged. But like I said, I want to use my story and my experiences to help other people, and the only way I can do that is by putting myself out there. So that is why I have decided to be brave and actually start this YouTube channel. And you know what, I'm really looking forward to it. Like, I'm nervous, but I'm excited. Like, I've got a lot of content ideas and I can't wait to make more videos for you. So the next question I had was, when did you realise you wanted to do this and what is your motivation? And I thought this was a really good way for me to talk about my story in a little bit more detail. So I started suffering with social anxiety at about 11 years old, and it gradually turned into generalised anxiety. But when I was 12, I also developed an eating disorder as well as OCD. I was getting a lot of treatment for my eating disorder for the next few years. I was in and out of hospital. They tried to get me to engage in therapy treatment, but having an eating disorder, I was heavily resisting the treatment. So any attempt to help me put on weight was something I heavily resisted. At this stage of my life, when I was about 13, I was really suffering with obsessive compulsive disorder, and it started to morph from compulsive exercising into just physical compulsions that interrupted all aspects of my life. I would have rituals that I'd have to perform every morning, compulsions where I'd have to repeat myself, repeat actions, and honestly, it was a very tiring experience. Because at the time I was eating next to nothing, so I had absolutely no energy and I was engaging in all these compulsive behaviours and I was just exhausted. But eventually I managed to control my OCD symptoms in a way that was actually unhelpful in the long term, but in the short term I managed to control my symptoms and I was doing less compulsions. But what I was still suffering from was anxiety, particularly social anxiety and generalised anxiety. But this is exactly the time when I found weightlifting, and it honestly changed my life for the better. It helped me overcome my eating disorder because it changed my perception of food, but it also really helped me with my mental well-being and my anxiety. I really fell in love with weightlifting and the feeling it gave me. It helped my mental health in so many ways, from making me feel more confident to releasing endorphins. It just became such a valuable tool for my mental well-being, and I am so grateful that I found it. But unfortunately, I suffered a few setbacks with my mental health. When I was 16, 17, my OCD came back in full swing and it really impacted my daily life. It's a very complicated story and I would be happy to dive into it in more detail in another video, but I'll keep it short and I'll just say that eventually I was admitted to hospital as I wasn't eating, drinking or sleeping due to my compulsions. But I actually stayed in hospital for 3 months where I was treated with a lot of medication, but unfortunately I couldn't engage in any therapy treatment as there were no available therapists. But the medication saved my life. It got me to a place where I could function again, and I actually left hospital and stayed out of hospital for another year, but then I went back to hospital for further treatment. So I actually went back to hospital when I was 21, and that's where I engaged in ERP therapy, which stands for Exposure Response Prevention. It got me to a place where I was actually able to function again and start living my life properly. Unfortunately though, through these times there were occasions where I couldn't go to the gym, I couldn't work out. In fact, I couldn't really do anything. But every instance that I could get myself back to the gym, I did, and it was honestly such a valuable tool in helping me through all of this. And after my second admission to hospital where I'd done my ERP therapy, I was back in the gym consistently, and that is when I realised that I really wanted to become a personal trainer and help other people use fitness as a tool for their mental well-being. So that was my inspiration and my motivation. So when people ask me about my motivation, I always talk about my story, my journey through my mental health struggles, and how fitness was such a valuable tool for me. And that has helped me not only become a personal trainer and help other people use fitness in a positive way, but also to share my experience with mental illness and raise awareness, as well as sharing any knowledge to help support other people who are going through a similar thing. Okay, so another question that I got was, what is one thing you've learned about yourself since being in recovery? Now, there's a lot of things I've learned since being in recovery, but one of the things I've learned about myself is that I am a lot stronger mentally than I give myself credit for. Living with a mental health condition like OCD takes so much strength, and to overcome it, from the point at which I was not functioning, barely surviving, to the point where I am now, that has taken so much strength, so much courage, and I honestly didn't know that I was capable of it. So that is definitely something that has surprised me. And I would say that it's the biggest thing that I've learned about myself as a person. I'm going to move on to another question, which was, what advice would you give to someone supporting someone with OCD? Now, it can be really tricky to have a loved one who is suffering from OCD because it's a very complicated disorder. I would say the first thing that you need to do is just educate yourself on what the disorder is, what it entails, just so that you can understand that person a little bit better. But also, the more you learn about OCD, the more you'll learn about your own behaviours and whether or not they are helpful to somebody with OCD to help them overcome the disorder, or whether they are actually keeping the disorder going. For example, it's very easy to reassure someone with OCD, but reassurance seeking is actually a compulsion. And if you understand the disorder, you'll understand that a little bit better. And that way you'll know when your loved one comes to you and is reassurance seeking, you know not to give in to that behaviour because it's actually fueling the OCD. So genuinely, it's just learning about OCD, learning about what behaviours you do that are beneficial and what behaviours are harmful. But also, you don't have to be an expert, so remind yourself that you should be kind to yourself and just do your best at supporting that person no matter what. At the end of the day, just knowing that someone is there for you can just be a really big help, so that's all you need to do. Another question that I got, which I thought was really interesting, is what technique do you find helped most with suppressing or dealing with intrusive thoughts? Now, the reason I find this really interesting is because suppressing intrusive thoughts is actually something that we can't do. If you have OCD, it's something that you'll probably want. You'll want to be able to suppress your thoughts. You want to get rid of any negative thoughts. When actually the way to overcome OCD is by allowing those intrusive thoughts to just exist, but move on from them. So we can't actually get rid of our intrusive thoughts, they just happen and they're out of our control. But in order to overcome OCD, you have to actually learn to just let those thoughts exist and to just overcome and cope with the anxiety. With OCD, you'll have compulsive behaviours that you do to relieve anxiety, but by doing those, you actually keep yourself in a vicious cycle. Whereas if you allow those thoughts to exist and the anxiety to exist, but then you move on, you let that anxiety come down on its own naturally, and your brain learns that this thought is not actually as dangerous as it seems. And eventually those thoughts will trigger less and less anxiety until you can cope with it a lot more easily. And that is exactly what exposure response prevention therapy is. And believe me, it is extremely difficult. It requires a lot of courage, but I promise you it is so worth it because it really changes the way you behave and it can allow you to better live your life. So the hard truth to hear is that rather than suppressing your thoughts, what we need to do is allow our thoughts to exist and ignore them. And that way the anxiety that they bring will come down on its own and gradually it will become less and less triggering. I hope I did a good job at explaining that. I can definitely go into a lot more detail about exposure response prevention therapy. I'm happy to do a whole talking video on OCD. You guys just let me know in the comments what you would like to hear more about. But I hope that that answer made sense to you all. And finally, we're going to move on from the topic of mental health and we're going to talk a little bit about fitness with my final question. So the final question I got is, what is a good training program? Now this is really dependent on you. This will vary depending on whether you're a beginner or not, but also depending on what your goals are, what you're trying to achieve. So it'll probably be more beneficial if you guys let me know in the comments what you would like to see specifically, whether you want to see a good training program for beginners, whether you want to see a training program for growing your glutes, a training program for overall strength, and then I can make videos for that subject. But I'll talk a little bit about my current training program just so you guys have a little idea. So I am currently strength training 6 days a week, which is quite a lot because I've been training for 5.5 years now. So I actually split my sessions. I split my leg days into 2 glutes and hamstring days and 1 quads and calves day. And then I include a push and a pull day for my upper body, as well as a cardio and core day. Now this is a lot of work, like 3 leg days a week is a very high number. It requires a lot of dedication and a lot of recovery time as well. So I have to make sure that when I'm not working out, I'm allowing my muscles to recover. But also I'm introducing something new, which I've not tried before, which is a deload week, because strength training this much requires a deload week for your muscles to recover. So that's a little bit about my current training program, but I'm happy to talk about anything that you guys want to hear. I just want to say a massive thank you to all of you who are supporting me, whether it's on here, whether it's on Instagram or TikTok. Genuinely, your support means the world, and it lets me know that I'm doing the right thing, which is so good to know. So I just want to reach out to those people that need it the most, whether you're interested in fitness and strength training, whether you're interested in mental health or want someone to talk to. I just hope that I can create a really lovely community where we can all talk to each other and just support each other. And a disclaimer as well, I don't claim to be a therapist. I am not a therapist. I've not got a degree in psychology. I'm only using my experiences and the knowledge I've gained along the way. If you're really struggling, I would always advise you to go and speak to your GP, and hopefully they can refer you to the correct person. But I'm here as someone that you can just listen to for some advice, and if you want to DM me, that's fine as well. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a lot of me waffling, but you guys let me know what videos you want to see, and I will do videos on those topics in the future. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you're interested in this channel, please subscribe, say hi in the comments. If you like the video, then please like it and let me know. Tell me what you liked in the comments, and I will do my best to create really good content for you guys, and hopefully we can build this channel together. So thank you so much, and I will see you soon. Bye.